Just again. Okay, so load balancer, if you use, if you want to have an external instance, if you come to me, this is the load balancer. I have two instances. If I need to have one more instance, right? If the load is high, two instances are unable to handle the load, then I'll add the third instance manually. So like this, we are going to add. For example, at 8 o'clock, I came to know that the two instances are unable to handle the load. Go on mute. Don't make me tell once again. Okay. Okay, two instances are unable to handle the load. Due to metrics or some monitoring, I came to know at 8 o'clock. Sorry, 8 o'clock it happened. I came to know at 8:10. Right? 8 o'clock, at 8 o'clock, load was high. I came to know at 8:10. Now I want to increase the number of instances. It's not so easy to create an instance, right? I want to create an instance, deploy the application. HTTPD server is m install HTTPD, but in real time, if you want to do the same thing, right? I want to install Java, I want to install Tomcat, or else I want to have a Kubernetes instance or Docker instance. I want to install the setup, do application setup, everything. If I want to do and create an instance and then deploy the application and connect it, it will take a lot of time. For example, 30 minutes. So within that 30 minutes, that my application got crashed. Might be, who knows, if the load is very high, these two instances will get crashed, right? That is one scenario. So manually adding will take time. Next thing, I created two instances. Due to some network issue or some script has deleted or I deleted, due to some issue, I deleted one instance. I deleted or terminated an instance. By mistake, one instance got terminated, or due to network issue, one instance got terminated or else stopped. It is not coming up for 1 hour. Now, how many instances you have? Only one. Only this has to handle the load. But I don't want that. I want minimum of or desired state. If I define two, always two instances should be running. Always two instances should be running. If one instance get terminated, if one instance get terminated, the other one should get up automatically. That means in place, if this gets deleted, in place of this, one more instance should come. Always two instances should be running. Right? I want like this. So to all of this, the solution is auto scaling. This auto scaling functionality is available only on clouds. Okay, either AWS, Azure, IBM, Google Cloud, whatever you take, and any cloud, only on cloud you can get this auto scaling concept, but not on virtual machines. On virtual instances, you cannot get this. Only on cloud instances, you can get this option, auto scaling. What it will do is, you need to create an AMI, custom AMI. You all know, right? What is custom AMI? What is custom AMI, guys?
We can create our own AMIs.
What is the use?
We can launch with the AMI instances using same volume, same web server, whatever anything we install.
Yeah, we can create a custom AMI in this from an instance. So in the instance, we'll deploy all the applications, whatever we require, and create an AMI out of that. Next time using this AMI, if we launch an instance, all the installations or the softwares, tools, everything will get ready-made in that new instance, right? So now you want to take an instance, install all that required softwares and create an AMI out of this, right? Now, you no need to take any instances, okay? For example, this is my load balancer, okay? Load balancer. I have a custom AMI. I have a custom AMI. So I'm going to take it just my AMI. Okay, I'm going to take my AMI. So I'm going to create a load balancer. I'm not going to create any instances. I'm not going to create 2 or 3 minimum instances, nothing I'm going to create. So I'm going to create a auto scaling group. Auto scaling group, right? So one thing called as auto scaling group I'll create. So what this here I'll tell for this auto scaling group, I need to give some configurations. What are those is, hey, maintain to desired equal to 2. to min to max 10. Like this, some numbers I will give. What is this is, now if you create an auto scaling group, like how we have seen yesterday in the left side, right? Load balancer, target groups, like that, there will be one option called as auto scaling groups. So we need to create an auto scaling group. Now we will tell this auto scaling group, hey, you create 2 instances for me. So decide 2 means always 2 instances should be running. If you delete one, right? If you delete one, AWS automatically create one more in place of that. Who will create means AWS means auto scaling group. Okay. AWS auto scaling group will make sure that always 2 instances are running. 2 instances. We give 2, right? If we give 2 there, 2, 3 means 3, 10 means 10, right? Like right. It will make sure always 2 instances are running and attach it to this load balancer. And attach it to this load balancer. Okay. Always 2 instances will be running and attached to this load balancer. If any one of this gets deleted, what is the desired state you give is 2. But what is the actual state? 1, not matching. So let me create one more with the, and let me create one more instance and attach it to the load balancer. Understood? What is auto scaling group desired state means? Yes or no?
Yes.
But here one thing, how this auto scaling group knows that it need to launch the same instance. So this instance I installed here, Tomcat I install HTTPD server, some ABC tool, XYZ tool, some tools I install. Here also same tools, right? Now, whenever this instance get terminated, I want to create, auto scaling group will create one more instance, and this instance should have same tools. How it knows that it need to launch an instance like this, right? So first what I'm doing is I'm creating an instance, whatever the tools, for example, I'll create an instance, I'll deploy all the tools, whatever I require. I'll create an AMI out of it. I'll create my custom AMI I'll create. So in my custom AMI, whatever the required tools I need, right? Everything is there inside that. Okay. Everything is there inside that. So this AMI has everything, whatever I need for my application instance, whatever the instance I need to launch, all that required things are there. Now, whenever you create auto scaling group, right? Along with that, we need to create one more thing called as launch configuration. Launch configuration. What is this launch configuration contains? Is this contains what AMI you have to use, T2 micro or T3 micro type of instance, whatever you want to use, right? T2 micro or whatever, T2 medium or whatever the type of instance, whatever you want to use, how much storage, what PEM file they have to use, what security group we have to use, right? I'll take the security groups. So whenever you are creating an instance, these and all need for that instance, right? Yes or no? Whenever you create an instance in AWS, these are minimum things, right? What type of AMI, Red Hat or Amazon Linux or what, right? So I want to take my custom AMI as the AMI, right? And I want to launch T2 micro. I need 10 GB of storage or 100 GB of storage. I need this security group. I need this PEM file, like that, right? It'll give all the configurations, right? All the settings you give there. Okay. So now, what is this? Yes, no, man. Divijendra. Okay. You can speak out. Okay. I cannot see the chat always. You can just speak out. Okay? So you are giving all the configurations here. Now what we'll do is, I gave auto scaling group, I gave launch configuration. Now for my auto scaling group, whenever I complete all the configurations, right, settings, this selects, and whenever I click on finish, like there is no finish, I'll show you. For example, there is a finish button. Whenever I click on that, so my auto scaling group tries to create 2 instances. It need to launch 2 instances, but using what details? Whenever it want to create an details, right? I mean, whenever it want to create an instance, it need few details. So for this auto scaling group, I'm giving this launch configuration. Based on this launch configuration, it will create that 2 desired state of instances. Okay. And attached to the load balancer. So I mixed all 3. So launch configuration, auto scaling group, load balancer, and target group also. Okay. Target group also will be there. Okay, I'll create all these things and there is one option to combine all this. I'll mix this, right? So I'm giving this. So now one of this instance desired state is 2, it launched 2. One got deleted. One got deleted. Now automatically auto scaling group will check that, like how it has some interval every time it will go and check the healthiness. So this node is unhealthy. Now what it will do, it will create one more in place of that, and attach to the load balancer. Right now, when launching this instance, how it has to launch? Launch configuration. Based on the launch configuration, it will go use this AMI with the storage, PEM file, everything. It will create a similar type of instance. Understood, guys? Clear? To launch a new instance, we gave the details. To launch a new instance, we gave the details. So based on that details, it is going to launch the instance. Fine. Next. Now, 2 instances are running fine. 2 instances are running fine. What happens is, there are few metrics you can check. So what are the metrics is? For example, if the CPU utilization of this instances, 2 instances, average, okay? The CPU utilization of this plus this, right? Average CPU utilization of both the instances is more than 70%. So what I want to do is, so if the CPU utilization is more than 70%, it means it is going high, means the EC2 instances load is high on that, right? Load is high on these 2 instances. I want to create one more instance. So what you can do is, in the auto scaling group itself, you can tell, hey, if the average CPU utilization of these 2 instances is more than 70%, you create one more instance. 1 or 2, you can tell either 1 instance or 2 instances, right? If the average CPU utilization of 2 instances is more than 70%, you launch one more instance, or else you launch 2 instances or 3, like that, any number you can give. So those many number of instances it will launch. For example, I gave us 1. So as the average CPU utilization of these 2 instances is more than 70%, it created one more. Now again, it will keep check. The same check it will do on this. Average CPU utilization of these 3 instances 60% is 60%. Okay, it will keep quiet. Again, after some time, you can give some time interval. It will go and check average CPU utilization of this is 70%. Again, I want to launch one. Again, right, as the condition is matching, average CPU utilization of this instance is more than 70%, right? It will launch one more instance. So like that, you no need to launch. So with the auto launch configuration, it is going to launch the new instance. So you are not going to check what is the load on my instances. If the load is high, I need to launch a new instances. You no need to launch. You don't need to check. Automatically, AWS Auto Scaling group itself is going to check this. If you give any condition, right, there will be different conditions. I'll show you based on the condition. If you give any condition, if the condition is matching, based on that, it is going to do an action, whatever you say, right? It will say, hey, I checked this. Average, you gave one condition to me. I checked the condition. Yes, it is matching. The average CPU utilization is more than 70%. What action I have to do? There will be one option. If you tell, I'll launch new instance. Okay, I'm going to launch a new instance, right? So one more. If you want to launch one more like this. But like this, if the average CPU utilization of the 4 is more than 70%, it will create one more, next one more, like that. Maximum how many I can create is this, maximum 10 you can give. So like this, if I want to increase the number of instances, I can increase up to maximum 10. If it has created 10 instances, and if the average CPU utilization of the 10 instances is more than 70%, will it add one more instance? No, it will handle with that only. It will not going to create more than 11 instances because you gave 10. Understood, guys? Yes or no? Have you understood?
Yes,
sir.
Okay.
Yes.
So like this it will be. So now I created, so like this it went to 10 instances. Okay, 10 instances it went, done. Today, my application is highly utilized because, for example, just take it as KC Maven Web Technologies project. So I'll show you one project, like real-time kind of thing, how we deploy and all. I'll show one project in DevOps. So I deployed an application, right? KC Maven Web Technologies. We are now launching a new batch. So we did in somewhere in like WhatsApp and all, Facebook. So many people started coming and start checking the new batch details, what is the course content and all, like timing and all. Now, for example, will they check in the entire day? No, only in the daytime they'll check. Or else whenever we post the messages, they'll check. After seeing the messages, maybe after 2-3 hours, everyone will see. After that, the number of users visiting my website will be slowed down. Yes or no, guys? Or else in the daytime, people will access the application, but in the nighttime, they will not access. So now as the load is high on the daytime, the number of instances reach to 10. The number of instances from 2 to 10 it reached. But in the night, it went down. It went down, very less number of users. But still I am running 10 instances. So that is useless. Yes or no, guys? 2 instances are more than enough to handle my load, right? But 10 instances are running. So based on the load, not only increasing the number of instances, I want to reduce the number of instances. So what will happen is, I need to write one more condition in the auto scaling group. What a condition I gave before? If the average CPU utilization of these instances are more than 70%, you create one more instance. Now I'll write one more condition. If the average CPU utilization of the instances is less than 60% or 50%, any number I can give. If average CPU utilization of the instances is less than 50%, you terminate one instance. You terminate one instance. In that 10, it will terminate one. Again, 9 instances are there. It will check average CPU utilization less than 90%, or say 50%, terminate one more. Like that, it will keep terminating. 4 are there finally. So the average CPU utilization of this 4 is less than 50%. So it will terminate one. Again, 3, average CPU utilization of these 3 is less than 50%, terminate one more. Now, the average CPU utilization of these 2 instances is less than 50%. So will it terminate one in this? No. Why? Because we gave as minimum 2. So, and we gave always desired state as 2. So always 2 instances should be running, we said. And this min state should not be less than desired state, right? So it can, you can give 3 or 4, right? Min state or equal to desired state, but not less than. You cannot give min as 1 here, because you said always 2 instances should be running. If it deletes 1, min as 1, it will create one more. So deleting and creation will keep happening. So AWS will not allow this. So min state should be equal to desired or more than, but should not be less than. So minimum of 2 instances should be there. Understood, guys? So based on our load, we can give a condition and tell to take an action like create an instance, right? Or else we can that we can do along with that, for when the load is less, we can give an action to reduce the number of instances also. Understood?
Yes, bro.
Okay. So this is the thing we need to do. So now what is the benefit here is, we no need to check what is the load. We no need to add the number of instances. For example, in the midnight, load is high. I no need to have a supporting team to keep checking what is the load, or else monitoring tools. Monitoring tools anyhow we have. So based on the response of the monitoring tool will monitor CPU utilization is more than 70%. It will send an email. Now I have to wake up right in the midnight. I need to have night shift guys. They need to come up after seeing the mail, support team, right? They need to come up and create an instance. I don't need to have all this headache. Just I'll create this, automatically it will launch an instance. When there is no load, automatically it will reduce an instance. The other benefit here is cost saving. Cost saving. As I'm increasing only the number of required instances. So if I don't know what will be my load, for example, I'm launching a new batch today. So I'm giving a message that I'm going to start a new batch tomorrow or maybe 10 days later. So if I send a message, I don't know how many people will visit my application. Maybe 10 people or 1,000 people. I don't know how many are going to visit. So what I'll do is blindly I'll create 10 instances. Blindly I'll create 10 instances. But many people are not visiting. Means those many instances are not required. That load is not that much. 3 or 4 instances is enough for me. But I don't know the load. I manually created 10 instances. I expected that huge load, but it created. So 4 instances are enough for me, but I created 10. So I have to pay extra 6 instances. But if you use auto scaling, only the required based on load, it is going to increase only the number of instances, required instances, right? So here, if I need 4 instances, 4 it will create. If I need 5, it will create 5. I need to pay only that 4 or 5 instances. Whenever the load is less, it is going to terminate the extra instances. So when the load is less, it is going to terminate the extra instances. So now I don't need to pay extra. So now 4 instances are there. 3 is enough for me. It will terminate the 4th instance. So I don't need to pay extra for that 4th instance. I need to pay only for 3. If 2 is enough, it will terminate the 4th one. Okay, from 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock, I'll pay for the 3rd instance. 9 o'clock, it terminated. So from now onwards, I don't need to pay for the 3rd instance. So for the 3rd instance, 8 to 9 only I'll pay. So the cost saving is there here. Understood, guys? Clear? Okay. This is how the auto scaling works. And now here, yesterday, when we used a normal load balancer, means without auto scaling, when we use load balancer, right? And instances, who create the instances manually?
We only.
We only created. Now, as I created the instances in the target groups, I only mentioned these 2 are going to be my target instances. In the target groups, we mentioned the 2 target instances. Yes or no? Do you remember?
Yes, sir.
Yes, bro.
But here, is there any fixed target? For example, initially, for example, when I use auto scaling group, who is going to launch this 2 desired state? You or a auto scaling group? Auto scaling is auto scaling group. So when you create a target group, do you know what are the 2 instances auto scaling group has launched? We don't know. And for example, it has launched 2 instances. Now the load is high. It is going to launch the 3rd instance. Will you come and manually map the 3rd instances also to the target group? How you knows that? How do you know that auto scaling group has launched 3rd instance? You don't know, right? Automatically it will launch. So whenever we are using auto scaling groups, right? Whenever you are using auto scaling concept to the target groups, you no need to give any targets. You just need to give the targets are going to be launched with auto scaling group. Just like that, you tell it. That's it. No need to do anything. Automatically, it will connect with the target. Automatically, that it will match. Auto scaling group will give the target groups as if there are 2 instances, 2. If the 3rd one comes, it will attach the 3rd one as well. If it come 4th one comes, it will attach 4th one. If the 4th one get terminated, it will remove that connection to the target group. Only 3 will be there. If the 3rd also removes, target group will have only 2 as the target instances. Like that, it is going to manage that internally. Understood, guys? Yes or no? Okay. Now we need to discuss about few more topics here. What is that is? So you need to tell your auto scaling group that the average CPU utilization of these 2 instances goes more than 70%. Right? You need to check that. How this auto scaling group does is this cannot check by default. So what I need to do is I need to create an alarm. I need to create an alarm that is called as CloudWatch alarms. CloudWatch alarms. There are some alarms called as CloudWatch alarms. I need to create an alarm and say that these are going to be my instances, right? So if the alarm, right, you know, right? If you, for example, in your mobile, you will keep an alarm, right? Daily 8 o'clock, the class starts, right? 8 o'clock, 8 a.m. So you keep an alarm. Your alarm will keep checking your mobile time. Okay, what is the time now? Okay, 7 o'clock, 7 a.m. Okay, let me keep quiet. I like that it will keep checking at some time. Now it checked. At 8 o'clock, it checked. Yes, the alarm. Yeah, now the condition is matching. Let me trigger. Right, like that. That alarm, if you create, right, on these instances, regularly that alarm keeps checking the CPU. For that alarm, you need to give condition. On what condition this has to trigger? On your mobile, you will give one condition, right? 8 a.m. is the condition. So whenever that 8 a.m. happens, that alarm is going to trigger, right? So that AWS CloudWatch alarm also. Okay, someone message, I'll reply later. Okay. So that alarm we will give a condition. So is that the one you are the one who messaged Divi Chandra Kumar? I'm in class. I'll reply later. Almost like 3, 6, 7 class completed, man. If you want to continue, if you have AWS basics, I can give the recordings of previous classes. You can continue. Are you the one who messaged in the group? Okay, I'll reply you later. Okay. Okay.
sir.
Are you the one who messaged in the group? I asked. Okay, I'll reply you later. Okay, leave it. So what we were, I got disturbed. Okay, instances, right? So you need to create an alarm. You need to create an alarm. For that alarm, what is the condition you are giving? Average CPU utilization of these two instances are more than 70%. So that alarm will keep checking that instances average CPU utilization. Whenever it reaches 70%, it will trigger. The alarm will trigger. Okay, alarm has triggered. Now what should I do? What should I do now? Is so whenever the alarm triggers, I need to take one action. Okay, that alarm has one option also. What action you want to take? Action option will be there. So alarm will trigger whenever the CPU utilization of these two instances are reaches 70%. Now, whenever that alarm triggers, what should I do? Whenever the alarm triggers, what should I do? I need to take one action, right? So that alarm will have one action. In the action, you need to define, I want to create one more instance. I want to create one more instance. So alarm will check the condition and will trigger. Whenever that triggers, what action you have to do, right? So that action also you have to tell. So in the actions, I'll give one more thing. I want to send an email alert. For example, in the midnight, one instance, two instance load is high, one instance has been created. So in the morning, 6 o'clock, it has been deleted because the load is less. So you came up in the morning, 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, you came to office and checked. The billing is extra for the third instance. But when you left office yesterday, there were two instances. In the morning, when you came, there are two instances. In between, one more instance got created and terminated. You don't know this. And you thought like, AWS has charged extra for me. One instance for a couple of hours, they have charged extra. You may think, right? So I want to know whenever a new instance has created. So in the actions, you not only create an instance, you can tell, send me an email alert. Whenever a new instance has created, you send me an email. So you have an alarm. When the CPU utilization of these two instances is more than 70%, the alarm get triggers, right? So whenever the alarm triggers, what action you have to do? Two actions I want to do. One is create one more instance attached to the load balancer. Second one is trigger an email to me. Likewise, when the load is less, I created one more alarm. When the CPU utilization of these two instances is less than 50%, three instances right now, when the CPU utilization of these three instances is less than 50%, terminate one instance. So alarm will trigger whenever the CPU utilization of these three instances is less than 50%. So whenever the alarm, this is second alarm, right? So CPU utilization is 50%, less than 50%. So whenever the alarm trigger, what action I have to do? One is terminate the instance. Second is trigger an email. Send me an email that instance has terminated. I'll come to know when the instance has started, when has terminated. So one alarm for increasing the number of instances. All right. What actions? Any action you can, if you don't want to receive an email, no problem. You just can add the action for the alarm as create an instance. If you want to receive an email, you can add that action also. And one more alarm to reduce the number of instances. It will check the less than CPU utilization. There are many conditions, not only CPU. I'll show you. So if the CPU utilization is less than 50%, trigger an alarm. That alarm will trigger. What action you want to do? Take whenever that alarm triggers. I want to terminate an instance. I want to send an email, right? Like this. And one more thing is the alarm will not trigger immediately when the CPU utilization of average CPU utilization of these two instances reaches 70%. You can give some condition also. Twice in 5 minutes. Twice in 5 minutes. Okay, CPU utilization went more than 70%, right? Maybe 1 minute it went once and came down. 70% it went and then it came to 60%. Now the alarm should not trigger just for 1 second. It went 70% and came down, right? So if it went regularly, like in 5 minutes, twice it went to 70%, then only my alarm has to trigger. Like that condition also you can give to your alarm. Okay, understood, guys? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. This is how load auto scaling groups or auto scaling concept works in AWS. We will discuss this. Okay. Okay. So the meeting is going to end. The next session, right? I'll discuss about some other concept. Then we will go to auto scaling and then implement this. Okay, you please rejoin back using the same link and password, meeting details after the meeting.